Just tell me why you're here.
So I'm here because I have spent a career representing people accused of crimes, and I've always been incredibly uncomfortable about what we do to people accused of crimes. And this aspect, solitary confinement, to me represents the absolute worst of what we do to human beings. A really inexcusable form of, to call it punishment is generous, really torture. And I don't want to be part of a society that thinks torturing human beings is an appropriate form of discipline.
Now, if I were to talk to the Rhode Island Department of Corrections, they would tell me they don't have solitary confinement. They changed the wording on it. They've come up with something new. What do you think of that kind of?
Yeah, they've called it a variety of things in the years that I've been here in Rhode Island.
Right.
But the fact remains the same. When you keep a human being in a small cage, in isolation, and generally speaking, intentionally kept away from forms of entertainment,
right,
such as TV, I don't think there's any other word for it other than solitary confinement. And it is designed intentionally to do what it does, to invade the person's brain and to psychologically impact that person in a really devastating fashion. That's its purpose.
Right. Now, when I hear people tell their story about solitary confinement in Rhode Island, they tell me they are sent to the whatever for like 2 weeks. But then from that 2 weeks, because every little infraction can add days, they're sometimes spending months and months there. Years.
Sometimes years.
Right.
Yes, it's a cycle that builds on itself. When we put people in a scenario where the human brain wants to figure out a way to exercise some control, right? To do something that shows that you're a living, functioning human being. And almost anything that a person in segregation does in that environment is considered to be a violation of the rules.
Right.
And so it simply builds upon itself. We force people, more or less, into violations, right? The concept that somebody can survive, it's like if you put somebody in a car, told them they had to go 300 miles, but they had to do it at 5 miles an hour, right? Nobody is going to be able to do that. It's just not going to happen.
Right.
So we create a scenario that is designed to have people violate the rules so that we can extend punishment, torture ad infinitum.
Right. It's like a pressure cooker in there, and it's just
absolutely. The human brain, we are social animals.
Right.
We are not designed to sit inside our own thoughts in isolation for extended periods of time.
I know there are people who are out now who have talked about lifelong trauma from being inside.
I don't think there's any question about it, and actually there's quite a bit of literature studying the impact of this kind of isolation, and the literature is incredibly compelling, not in the least bit surprising, about what happens to people.
Now, your situation, you're here for about an hour.
An hour, yes.
An hour, and you have a big open cell. People can come by and talk to you, so it's not like you're in social isolation, right? If you needed a book, you could probably get a book.
I very consciously did not bring reading.
Okay.
Obviously, I have my phone, because nobody goes anywhere without one, but I certainly didn't turn it on during the hour. I did that on purpose to try and get a sense just for an hour. And just for an hour, sitting in a public street without bars in front of me, in fresh air, was really hard. Painful, long, boring, hard. And that's an hour that I know is going to end. So the concept of magnifying that out to not only hours, but days, weeks, months, sometimes years, it's unimaginable. I think I would go insane. And not surprisingly, other people do.
So Rhode Island has an opportunity to do way better in this sphere, right? We could outlaw this.
We could do what New York State has done, which is make sure that as a punitive measure, segregation or solitary confinement lasts for no longer than 15 days.
Which is already, seems to me, my mind, a crazy amount of time.
I agree. I couldn't survive 15 days, I don't think. I mean, I don't know what I would look like and feel like after 15 days of that. But at least there's an end. At least if one were inside, one could look forward to the end in a meaningful fashion, which is not the experience many people have now.
Right.